זקנים משער שבתו, בחורים מנגינתם. שבת משוש ליבנו, נהפך לאבל מחולנו, נפלה עטרת ראשנו, אוי נא לנו כי חטאנו. The month that has been dedicated to commemorate national tragedy of our nation is the month called Av. Mishnichnas Av Mim'atim B'Simcha. The Darshanim are struggling to understand why we would call this month in the name of Av. There must be a secret behind the name. Some have said that the month of Av, the first half of it at least, is cursed. It's unlucky until we get to Tu B'Ab. When we get to the 15th of Av, then the month becomes blessed. This is hinted to us in the configuration of the name of Hashem in the month of Av. As you know, every month is under another configuration of Shem Yudke Vavke. Of course, the first month of the year, which is Nisan, is Yudke Vavke. All the letters are straight. That's why it's a month of Hesed. Lahagid ki Yashar Adonai. When Hashem's name is Yashar, Suri velo avlat tabo. There's no troubles, there's no tzarot in the month of Nisan. The month of Tammuz, according to the configuration of the Shem Yudke Vavke, is exactly backwards. It's the Yudke Vavke in reverse, which hints to us that the month of Tammuz is the most bitter of all the months. What Nisan is in Chesed, Tammuz is in Din, the entire month. But the month of Av, the configuration is Havaya. Like I said it, Havaya. Hevav Yudke. So you see, the Hevav is backwards. That means the first half of the month is the first two letters of Shem Havaya. The Hevav is the cursed part of the month. But from the 15th on, it's Yudke, it's straight. Lagid ki Yashar Hashem. That's why the name of the month, half of it is backwards and half of it is straight. Av is Rashi Tevot. Arur Baruch. The first half is Arur. The second half is Baruch. Others have said that the month of Av reminds us of those enemies that were responsible for destroying Bayit Rishon and Bayit Sheni. We said last night when we began Arbit, and we say in the Tikkun Hatzot, Al Naharot Bavel, Sham Yashavnu Gam Bachinu Bezochrenu Et Zion. Right away we mentioned Bavel. The Babylonians were responsible for Urban Bayit Rishon. And then we say, Zechor Hashem Libnei Edom. Remember what Edom did. That's the Galut of Edom, the Romans that destroyed the second Bet HaMikdash. Ad Haisod Ba. They destroyed it until its foundations. Av is Rashi Tevot. Edom, Bavel. Which hints to us the two nations that destroyed the two Batei Mikdash. Others have said that there's a remez in the Shem Av to what the Gemara says and brought down as well in Midrash. Lo harba Yerushalayim Jerusalem was not destroyed not until the Jewish people neglected the whole entire Torah. The Jewish people were in neglect of Torah. The Midrash says, "Shenichteva be'alef bet." The Torah is written with the letters of Aleph Bet, the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. So the Hakamim gave a remez on the month of Av. Av is Aleph Bet, because the Jewish people were in contempt of the Torah, Shenichteva be'alef Bet, that was written with the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. B'reshut Kahal Kadosh, I would like to offer today a novel interpretation why the month that finds the great Avelut of Tisha B'Av, why is it called Av? The Gemara in Shabbat lists all contributing reasons why the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Lo harba Yerushalayim ela, lo harba Yerushalayim ela. This means that there wasn't one reason, but there was contributing reasons. One of the reasons it says there is al shelo hochichu zeh et zeh, because the people did not rebuke each other. What seems from the Gemara that people were not interested only in themselves, and when they saw a crime being committed or an iniquity or some avon, it's not my business. They felt that it's not their responsibility to rebuke somebody else's wrong. They didn't realize what Rabbeinu Ari says. And Rabbeinu Ari asked the question, why when we make vidui, we make it in the plural? Ashamnu, bagadnu. It should say Ashamti, bagadti. And also he asked, a lot of those sins that are in the vidui, we are certain that we did not commit. A lot of those major league avirot that are in the confession, certainly even if we make the most serious of introspection, it's not on our roster. But Rabbeinu Ari said that any time another Jew commits a sin, all Jews are responsible. Kol Yisrael arevim zeh lazeh. And therefore, if one Jew was Ashem, so it becomes Ashamnu. And if another Jew was Bagad, it becomes Bagadnu. And all the sins of Am Yisrael are interlinked and connected to the entire Jewish unity, to the entire collective Jewish soul. But it seems the people in that generation didn't feel this, which the Gemara calls arvut, this responsibility towards one another. Shelo hochichu zeh et zeh. They mind their own business, like they say today in the vernacular, mind your own business. So that's what they did, they minded their own business. And the Gemara says, because of that, the Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. Shelo hochichu zeh et zeh. So it seems that the tikkun for Binyan Beit HaMikdash would go back to this mitzvah of tochaha. That if you see something, you have to say something. But you cannot live in a bubble. Although you might argue and say, well, I'm not a rabbi. They didn't invite me to speak over here on Tisha B'Av from a pulpit. I don't have a venue. I don't have a flock. I don't have people to who am I giving rebuke to. This is the job of the Hakamim. This is the job of the leaders. If you remember in this week's Parashat, after Moshe Rabbeinu gives a rebuke, a stinging rebuke to Am Yisrael, the tzaddikim say that every pasuk in Sefer Devarim is a tochaha. After he gave the rebuke to them, albeit beremez, but he gave a rebuke nonetheless, although it was in a hint. At the end he says, Echa esa lebadi. Torhachem u'masa'achem v'ribechem. I cannot bear this burden alone. I cannot carry this responsibility myself. What he was telling the Jewish people is, I just gave you a good rebuke, but it's not enough that I rebuke you. You must police yourselves. One leader and one rabbi and one officer cannot rebuke the entire nation. How can I carry this responsibility myself? There must be, like we have volunteer police, so we need amongst the people themselves to keep order. And when the people keep order amongst themselves, it's maybe more effective because the rabbi doesn't know what the people are doing. The rabbi gets up from the pulpit and he's speaking that the people are not having kavanah when they're putting on tefillin Rabbeinu Tam. And somebody says, that's the problem that you're talking about, tefillin Rabbeinu Tam, kavanot. Rabbi, you don't know what's going on in the community. The rabbi is talking sometimes on high-level musar, but the people are aware of what the crimes are. So Moshe Rabbeinu says, I only told you what I know, but I cannot do this myself. You have to do it with me. The Midrash says in Echa esa lebadi, Echa yasheva badad. Im hayu shom'im le'echa esa lebadi, lo haya Echa yasheva badad. If the Jewish people would have heard the Echa esa lebadi, there would not be Echa yasheva badad. Because in that generation they said rebuke, that's for the rabbis. We do whatever we want. If we get caught, that's like a juvenile mentality. If the teacher catches us, so we got caught. But until he catches us, we go whatever we want. Bedlam. So they said, we're not obligated to police ourselves. Whatever the rabbi catches us on, so we have to pay. So they said, you're wrong. If you would have heard Echa esa lebadi, if you would have heard Moshe Rabbeinu say that you can't do it alone, you need the community's help, then there wouldn't have been Echa. This Echa brought the other Echa. You will ask a fair question. And the group over here is well aware that giving rebuke is one of the most difficult mitzvot in the Torah. Because you have to, first of all, be l'shem shamayim. You cannot embarrass the person. You cannot turn him off. You can't get him angry. Sometimes the rebuke has a counter effect. The person now does the contrary. Yeah, you told me not to do it, now I'm going to do it. B'mezid. And therefore many rabbis, many poskim, from the times of the Talmud, said that we are not equipped to give tochaha. We don't know how to do the mitzvah. The mitzvah is beyond us. It takes a certain knack, it takes a certain trait that we don't have. We lost it. So I ask you, so that means what? We should erase the mitzvah from the Torah? If somebody asks you today, how many mitzvot do you have in the Torah? It's 612. What happened to tochaha? Now the rabbi said we can't do it today, so scratch it off the list. Lo yahalifa el velo yamir, dato le'olamim. This dat is le'olam, it's an eternal religion. And all of its precepts are eternal. And we must find an application of this mitzvah in our generation. Although maybe the application of everybody running around rebuking each other and sticking their nose in other people's business, maybe we forgot the art of rebuke. But there is still a place where it's obligated. And we cannot abdicate this responsibility. The Gemara in Gittin tells a well-known story. The story that the Gemara says is the responsibility of the destruction of the Beit HaMikdash. That it was this episode that was the straw on the camel's back that caused the destruction. Akamsa bar kamsa harov Yerushalayim. And the Gemara tells a story of a fellow that was making a wedding. You know the story, I'm saying it quickly. And the Shaliyah, instead of inviting Kamsa, who was the real invitee, he made a mistake and invited Bar Kamsa. Bar Kamsa was an enemy of the host. Bar Kamsa came to the wedding. The host was livid. What are you doing at my wedding? You could leave now. He said, please don't embarrass me. I'll pay. I'll pay for what I eat. I'll pay half the wedding. I'll pay the whole wedding. I don't want your money. Get lost. And he threw him out. All the rabbis were there. Nobody said anything. The man was embarrassed. He was ashamed. He was humiliated. He took, from the wedding, he took a direct flight from Jerusalem to Rome. And he got to the Caesar in Rome, and he told them, Mardubach Yehuda'eh, Mardubach Yehuda'eh, the Jewish people have rebelled against you. And he set into motion the entire destruction. It came from his malshinut, his ratting out the Jewish people. So it's clear from the story that Bar Kamsa is a villain. What kind of person is this? So they embarrassed you. I'm not saying that they were right, but that's the normal behavior. Somebody embarrasses you, right away you go to the FBI, right away you go to the CIA, right away you go to the government, you want to jeopardize the whole nation. This is normal behavior. They made a avon, they embarrassed you. So you have to be such an extreme that you're going to destroy the temple because of it? That's out of the playbook of Haman. Haman's angry at Mordechai because he won't bow down to him. He says, I'm not there, I'm going to kill all of them. I'm Mordechai. You're upset, so go burn the guy's house down. Go burn the wedding down. No, we're going to burn the whole Klal Yisrael. We're going to destroy the whole temple. So it's clear Bar Kamsa is a villain. It's clear the rabbis that were there that didn't rebuke, also there's something to say. That's part of what we just said. They weren't rebuking. They saw avonot, everybody closed their eyes. Certainly the host was a good supporter of the yeshivas, and the rabbis didn't want to say anything. How are we going to go and collect money for the yeshiva after we give this guy? So we'll close our eyes. We'll make believe we didn't see it. So the rabbis were responsible also. I'll tell you somebody else who was responsible in this story that the Gemara doesn't make a big deal, but in my estimation, although I didn't come to speak about this today, is probably the most guilty out of all of them. But the Gemara doesn't make a big noise of it. The mailman, the Shaliach, he's the worst of all of them. You were supposed to invite Kamsa, and you made a mistake and you invited Bar Kamsa. What kind of Shaliach are you? The Gemara says, Hazaka Shaliach Oseh Shalichuto. We have a rule that if you tell somebody to do something, you could assume if he's a normal person, he executes. Hazaka Shaliach Oseh Shalichuto. You could go to sleep. You gave it to a responsible person, you know it's done, it's handled, it's taken care of. And this Shaliach was given not a difficult task. Go invite Kamsa to the wedding. And he comes back and says, I didn't read the invitation right. I got confused between Kamsa and Bar Kamsa. No big deal. No big deal. That mistake in Shalichut, no big deal. That destroyed the Beit HaMikdash, that mistake. No big deal. You put the letter in the wrong mailbox. Hatati, I said, kill me. We are going to kill you. You destroyed the whole world because of this mistake. This teaches us that if you have a mission in life, you must succeed at it. And you must take your shlichut seriously, because you never know that your shlichut, the whole Am Yisrael could be hinging on it. If you're a school teacher and God has made you a shaliach to teach Jewish children, you must make certain that you teach those children correctly. And if you're a rabbi, you must lead your congregation with 153% of your strength. And if you're a businessman, you must serve the community in a lay leadership way with all your kohot and all your bechol meodecha. Everybody has this shlichut in this world. So Prince says, big deal, so I messed up. I messed up. You cannot afford to mess up on your shlichut. Good, so we even got the shaliach involved now. But there's only one person in the story that deserves our defense. He deserves a good defense lawyer to protect him. And that's Kamsa. Poor guy. He's a victim over here, Kamsa. He was waiting for an invitation. All his friends are telling him, so you're going to go to the wedding tomorrow night, what time's the wedding? Of course I'm going. What an invitation, huh? How do you like that invitation? Hey, you know what? What's the matter, Kamsa? You look a little awkward. I don't know, I didn't get an invitation, he didn't invite me. What do you mean he didn't invite you? The guy's best friend. He didn't invite, what should I tell you? The guy didn't invite me. They tell me, it must have been an oversight. Yeah, oversight, but I get my electric bill every month. The American Express never has oversight. It comes every month. But all of a sudden now the invitation is oversight. So he's sitting home while everybody's going to the wedding. He's sitting home, Chabeab. Everybody's going to the wedding. The guy's sitting on the floor reading Echa. So the Gemara comes along and says, you know why Jerusalem was destroyed? Kamsa ubar Kamsa. For these two villains, these two crooks, what do you want from Kamsa? Poor guy. It's not enough that he didn't get invited to the wedding. But now you want to pin the whole destruction on him also? Not only that, but if you're reading with the proper Gemara eyes, it seems that Kamsa is more responsible because his name is written first. We're allowed to study Gemara with analysis. Kamsa or Bar Kamsa. It seems Bar Kamsa is secondary. But Kamsa is the real guy here. And we're struggling, we're scratching our head. The world did the guy do? Comes the Gaon Maharsha. Maharsha says a few words. He says, Kamsa or Bar Kamsa, Av Ubno. The father and his son. Bar Kamsa, just read it in a simple interpretation. Bar Kamsa means the son of Kamsa. That means this story, Kamsa was the father and Bar Kamsa was his son. Oh, that's what the Maharsha says. Avavno. And then he leaves the rest to your imagination. You know what the guilt of Kamsa was? How in the world did such a child grow up in your house? How is it possible? Where was this child educated? In the jungle? How is it possible that somebody slights him and for that he goes and sets the whole Klal Yisrael ablaze? Where did he learn this from? Where did he learn this behavior, this extremism? Where did he learn these midot ra'ot, this mushhat? Where did this come from? The Gemara says, you know where this came from? This is the fault of his father. Because if his father would give him a good chinuch, if his father would have given him a good lesson when he was young, and maybe at sometimes a good beating and a good scolding, maybe Bar Kamsa wouldn't have turned out like he did. The Gemara with its prophetic vision puts the onus and the blame on the father of Bar Kamsa. And the Gemara is saying this was not an isolated incident. This was symptomatic of the generation of the destruction of the temple. Parents were not parenting their children. This was the extreme case, but this was rampant. The Kamsas weren't teaching the Bar Kamsas, and as a result the Bar Kamsas were running wild. There was hefkerut, there was lawlessness, there was anarchy. The children were just doing whatever they cared for, and the parents were not interested. They closed their eyes. So the Gemara said that's the cause of the destruction. And that's the answer to my question. You're right. You don't want to rebuke your neighbor. You don't want to rebuke the guy across the street. You don't want to rebuke the guy sitting next to you in shul. Fine, you might have an exemption. We don't know how to rebuke anymore. We're patur. We don't want to offend anybody. We don't want to upset anybody. But as a parent, this is one place where we're able to rebuke to our children. Should we surrender to our children as well? Should we come along and say, well, we want them to like us? When you hear some parents, they say, my child is my best friend. This attitude destroys the relationship between father and son. Doesn't mean best friend. Just like your rabbi is not your best friend, so too your father and mother is not your best friend. You could use it in a cute way, but a father and mother are figures. They're figures of modeling the proper education and values. And look what happens when a Kamsa shrugs his responsibility of being a parent. The product is a bar kamsa, and the product of a bar kamsa is Churban Bet HaMikdash, because when the Bayit Pirati, when the personal home, when the private home of Am Yisrael is not being managed correctly, the Bayit Pirati destroys the Bayit Kilali, destroys the big home of the Bet HaMikdash. The tikkun of the Bet HaMikdash doesn't begin in Jerusalem. Tikkun Bet HaMikdash begins in the Jewish home. First we have to manage the small house, and then we can start worrying about the big house in Jerusalem. But if the small house is pandemonium, if the small house where we live in, our Bayit Yehudi, if it's helter-skelter, then we cannot anticipate the building of the Bayit HaGadol. First we must rebuild Bayit Katan. And for Bayit Katan to be rebuilt, it takes parents that are willing to rebuke their children. When a mother tells her daughter, you do not leave the house dressed like that. When a father tells his son, where are you going? What time are you coming back? Min Jayef, En Rayer. These are questions that parents must ask their children. But nah, I don't want to get involved. I don't want to offend him. I don't want him to hate me. I don't want him to. So look what happens. The destruction of the Jewish family. And that's why the month of the destruction is called Av. Av could mean, Av is a father. But Av is also Rashi Tevot. Av Beno, Kamsa Ubar Kamsa. Av Beno, the father and the son. The destruction was because they didn't rebuke. Who didn't rebuke? Ze et ze means father to child, mother to daughter. And I heard this from Ateret Roshi Hacham Baruch Alav Shalom, when he delivered one of his last shiurim in our synagogue in Ohel Yaakov. And I had the zechut to be sitting by his side when he delivered that last shiur. And he was talking about the ills of the community. He was talking about the different problems that we have with the youth. And he was very strong in his rebuke. So one of the old timers that was in the class, and very innocently, he raised his hand to the rabbi. He said, Rabbi, what are we supposed to do? You're spelling out over here a disastrous problem, an insurmountable problem. What do you want us to do, Hacham? And the rabbi looked at him and he called him by his first name and he told him, Rabbi Yehuda, worry about your own family. Don't worry about anybody else. You're concerned? Call up your daughters tonight, call up your sons tonight, watch your grandchildren, and don't worry about anything else. This is our responsibility. Even if we have surrendered to change the whole world and to make tikkun ha'olam, but at least we have to make bedek habayit, at least to make the tikkunim, to fix the cracks in our own homes. Now I would like to go and explain in this vein of Derash today the Pesukim that I began with. The Pesukim say in Echa, Zekenim misha'ar Shabbatu, Bachurim mineginatam. Simply the Pasuk is telling us about the death of the tzaddikim that took place in the times of the Hurban. Zekenim misha'ar Shabbatu, the elders have ceased from the gate. It seems that there was the death of the Zekenim. Bachurim mineginatam, and the young men from their music. It seems that not only elders were killed in the times of the Hurban, but even the youngsters, the teens, the youth, they also perished as they were playing their music, as they were dancing and reveling in life, but we lost them as well. The Pasuk is referring to a physical death. Zekenim misha'ar Shabbatu, Bachurim mineginatam. And then the prophet Yirmiyah laments both of them. And he says, Shavat mesos libenu, the joy of our heart ceased. That's referring to the death of the elders. When an elder, when a zaken passes away, we say, Baruch Hashem, he lived a long life. We were lucky to have them in our midst. They provided us so much joy and so much pride. So at the death of the Zekenim, Yirmiyah says, Shabbat misos libenu. But at the death of the Bahurim, he says, Nehpach le'evel mecholenu. Our dance has turned into mourning. It's indeed an avelut when we lose Bahurim, when we lose young men and young women. When they perish, indeed, it's avelut. It's not just we lost our joy. But with the permission of Kahal Kadosh, I'd like to say a nuance in these Pesukim. The Pasuk is telling us not about the death of Zekenim and not about the death of Bahurim, but it's telling us about the leaders of the generation that gave up on the youth. And the Pasuk writes, Zekenim misha'ar Shabbatu. The elders, you know where they sit? They sit at the gates. That's where the Batei Midrash are, the gates of Yerushalayim. That's where the seat of justice is. That's where the Sanhedrin was. And the elders that sat at the gate, they ceased. They ceased what? The Pasuk doesn't say they ceased to exist. It says Shabbatu, but it doesn't say what they ceased from doing. So you have to read the next part of the Pasuk. They ceased Bahurim min neginatam. They ceased rebuking the children that were at their parties. The Zekenim said, what are we going to say anymore? And therefore they gave up and they let the Bahurim go to the neginatam, and they ceased from trying to bring the youth back to the fold. The elders gave up on the generation that was beneath them. Zekenim misha'ar Shabbatu Bahurim min neginatam. And you know what their rationale was? The rationale was, sometimes if you close your eyes and you don't say anything, it'll go away. Just like we hear this claim many times, where people say to the youth, listen, you have to give in to them a little. You have to let them do it, but just give them limitations. And if you give them limitations, then you can even give them very dangerous things, but as long as you put limitations. And we close our eyes, and our leaders and our parents have been accustomed to tell the youth, just forgive them. Mehol, mehol, mehol. A parent came to me recently, and I explained it to him properly. He said, Rabbi, you'll be very proud of my daughter. Okay, I'll be very proud. Tell me what happened. She won valedictorian. She won the Hidon Tanakh Award. What did she do exactly? She was at a party, and they were in the pool. Oh, you don't have to finish the story if you don't want. No, I want to tell you. And they were Bahurim min neginatam. And all of a sudden things got a little out of hand. She got up and she left. Because I told her, Adkan Tchum Shabbat. Meaning you could go to the party, you can go into a pool, Bahurim min neginatam, but once that line is crossed, Adkan Tchum Shabbat. And she listened. I said, I'm very proud. I want to ask you a question. She signed on that? She signed. She gave me her word. Beautiful. Did you get the Yetzer Hara to also sign, but? Did the Yetzer Hara also say, yeah, that's my limit, I'm not going anything else? Oh, I didn't know about the Yetzer Hara. Oh, you didn't know about the Yetzer Hara? Don't you know that every kid has a Yetzer Hara in him? If you're telling me you were able to make a deal with the Yetzer Hara, that he committed not to go past that, I say, okay, you did a great thing. But I haven't known yet that you can ever make a deal with the devil. The Yetzer Hara, you can make deals with him. So he said, what are you talking about? I said, I'll explain it to you what I mean. You remember when the Arabs came to the Jewish nation and said, listen, we're going to make an offer. You see that area called Gush Katif? Wow, what an area. Gush Katif was Gan Eden in this world. Gan Eden, paradise. That little sliver of land, You cannot find a land like this anywhere in the world. Gardens and flowers and vegetables. Kegan Hashem. So the Arabs said, listen, give us that little sliver. And that's it, we'll go away. You'll never hear from us again. No more bombs, no more terrorism, no more nothing. That's all. So people that are on the know that you can't make a deal with the devil, right away said you can't trust them. But the people that are not so clever, we'll call it, they say, wow, this is great. Finally. It's worth it. We're going to uproot all these settlers and we're going to throw them out of their home, a home that they gave their lives for and all that. But for the sake of peace. So you remember the videos of them picking up all these settlers, the Mitnahalim, and they evicted them from their homes, and everybody was crying. And the next day, everybody was so happy. Finally, Baruch Hashem, peace in our time. The Arabs came in the first day. The next day, they set Gush Katif back 2,000 years. If you took a picture of Gush Katif, it looked like out of the Bible, it looked like Ur Kasdim. They took it back into the Bible. They burnt the whole place down. They burnt every field, every synagogue, and guess what happened on the third day? They started lobbing bombs over the border. So all the tzaddikim that made this deal with the devil, they said, hey, the paper, you forgot the paper? You signed the paper. What paper? What is the paper? Because you gave us a little sliver of land, you think, wow, we should give up our sovereignty? This is nothing. You have the whole land, you give us a little piece, you give us a kazayat. But what do you mean? But you shook hands. They showed the video. You shook hands. You shook. You said yes. Areni mekabel alay. You made kinyan, kibalti, like a ketubah. Kinyan Suday made every kinyan. Listen, you forced us. You can't expect. As a matter of fact, we're even more angry. That you think you could give us this piece and then keep us quiet? Now we're going to bomb you more. I say. You see, that's the same thing with the Yetzer Hara. The Yetzer Hara tells you, listen, I'm not going to bother you. Just let me go until here, then fine. Once you get there, he comes along and says, more. Hayom omer lo asekach, mahar omer lo asekach. What do you think? The Yetzer Hara's goal is to get you to do avodah zarah, but he can't tell you that in 1 second. So he just got to get his foot into the door. Once he get his foot in the door, the pasuk says, "Lepeta hatat robetz." The Yetzer Hara is lurking at the door. You can't let him in. Once you let him in and start negotiating, okay. I once spoke in Sharei Sion many years ago. They invited me during the Aseri Yemei Teshuvah. I was outspoken at the time, and I said to the people there, I said, we have to be concerned about the programming on television with our children. I thought that was a fair statement. One lady jumped up. What about Channel 13? Channel 13? Channel 13, watching a bunch of Zulus, a bunch of Africans jumping around. Your child's watching Channel 13, you telling me? 1 to 12, he's not interested. He's only interested in public broadcasting. Yeah, because you tell him 13, don't turn the channel. I mean, you leave, he keeps 13, that's all he watches. Ben Yud Gimel the mitzvot. Don't fool yourself. You can make a deal with your child, but you can't make a deal with the devil. The Yetzer Hara just needs a little in, and he says, okay, now push the envelope a little more. Before you know it, and that's what the Sekenim realized when they said in the pasuk, Shabbat Mesos Lebenu, the joy of the youth. We lost it. You know why? Nehpach le'evel mecholenu. The word mecholenu doesn't mean a dance. Mecholenu means from the Lashon mechol. Mecholim lach. All those years where we said, Mahol, leave them alone, close your eyes, let them do, then all of a sudden we saw the generation look like a monster. The Zekenim said, look, all of our conceding into the Yetzer and giving them more rope to hang themselves, God forbid. Then they saw that this was a mistake. All the mehols and the mehols came back to bite them. Akamsa ubar kamsa harov Yerushalayim. Av ubno. And that's what it's merumaz when the Hakamim said, Mishenichnas Av, when the father comes home into the house, then the party is over. That's a father. But when the father's partying with the child, when the mother's dancing with the daughter, Mishenichnas Av, Marbim b'simcha. Mishenichnas Em, Marbim b'simcha. This is the root. Not neighbors to neighbors, but parents to children. And then, Be'ezat Hashem, if we can get our house in order, and we can fulfill Bedek HaBayit on those that accept our rebuke, our own children, then Be'ezat Hashem, from the Bayit Katan will come the Bayit HaGadol, the Kadosh Hazeh. Sheyibbaneh b'mehera b'yameinu. Amen.